So welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us. The second years in the room are surprised to see the topic of their assignment here in the screen. But Rais is very excited to talk about something different than bushveld, because for the last 10 years at being at Wits, he's spoken a lot about bushveld. And we're very grateful for that. But tonight, or this afternoon, we have something slightly different in talk about ScareGuard, which looks very controversial and interesting. So Rais, thank you for offering to give this talk. For those of you who don't know Rais, because he's irregular, so the Geotalks and obviously in our department, he hails from Russia, where he did his undergrad work. He did his PhD in Finland, where he worked as an adjunct professor for some time. And then he joined us about 10 years ago in 2012 as a professor. Yeah. So Rais, thank you so much. Thank you for all you do in our school, and over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Brian. Okay, so with the lights, we're going. Okay, okay, so I have a very difficult task today because Judith told me that she's tired. I have to be very artistic and very impressive, so to keep her awake. So I'll do my best. And as a yes, you're still with us. Yes, today finally something else apart from the bushveld, and that's another classical layered intrusions, ScareGuard intrusions, which provided constraints on many fundamental concepts in igneous petrology. And I hope that we are introducing one more constraint into igneous petrology from our study of ScareGuard intrusions, that is teamwork. And this is, in this study, we are trying to say that ScareGuard is example of catastrophic growth of a magma chamber in a month or years. So that is, as I said, this is a check on the screen. On the screen. Okay, so that is a teamwork. So two of us, Sophie and I, we basically we conceptualized the original research idea, which came to our minds. So how we can use the ScareGuard to address one of the very complex problem in igneous petrology. And then in Argentina, we met Catherine Allen. At that time was in Switzerland, now it's Institute of Geophysics in Czech Republic. And we discussed this issue. She got very interesting. She's a model, thermodynamic model, and she just decided to join us. And then, of course, Troll Nielsen from Denmark, and he was absolutely great in providing all background information on the ScareGuard intrusions. I have never been there. None of us who have been there. So not just to avoid talking nonsense about ScareGuard, Troll was absolutely fantastic. And then Sandy Cruden from Monash University also joined us to help us with the physical part of that story. So Annan was a thermodynamic and Sandy about the physical emplacement. So that's our team. And so what's about? So for many years, we were very happy with the traditional paradigm, which says that that magma chamber is a partially or totally molten body located in the crust and supplied with magma from a deeper source reservoir, just like shown here on this cartoon. And they supply the overlying volcano with the magma. So in this paradigm, the magma chamber is large, it is a long-lived, and it's a liquid dominated. In the recent 10 years or so, this idea was questioned, and there is a three major line of evidences, let's say put in even three groups working now who question this idea and saying that that is perhaps all fantasy and this magma chamber do not exist at all. And they came to this idea from different perspectives, totally different bases. And one of them is leader of one of these group is a friend of mine, Alan Glesner from the United States. And in essence, I may say that he's a major instigator and the motivator of this study, because at many meetings, field trips and conference, he, when I was telling him that I'm busy with understanding how magma chambers work, he was always laughing and saying, Rais, you know, these magma chambers do not exist. So I don't know what you're really talking about. So what you are studying. And of course, that's finally resulted in, I decided I need to do something instead of waving hands. So why he believes that magma chambers do not exist? Because he believes that magma chamber growth rates must be similar to rate of tectonic processes. So that is how everything works on our planet, and which are inherently controlled by horizontal plate motion velocities. And we know now that it's 5 centimeters max. So that is the basic point of the Allen. And then follow, if at such slow rates, small batch of melts arriving into the chamber will totally or partially solidify between ejections, leaving little chance for the formation of large crystal poor magma chambers. And so that is his key point. And actually, he is absolutely right. I'll show you the modeling. So at such kind of rate of emplacement, he is absolutely right. You can forget about magma chambers. And that is his preferred models. In essence, this never was a magma chamber. It's just plutons formed from the numerous hundreds of seals, dikes with a visible or invisible contacts between these seals, sometimes with a little bit interstitial liquid, but never real magma chamber, never kind of box with the magma, never. Okay, and to address this issue, we decided to go to Skaergaard, which is classical layered mafic intrusion, formed during Atlantic Open. It's pretty young guy, associated with the large igneous provinces. Why we decided to go there? The reason is that Skaergaard is absolutely unique in many things, and one in particular. Skaergaard, among these 550 layered intrusions, which we know exist on our planet, that is a recent compilation by Smith and Wolfmeyer's very nice paper, all compilation layered intrusions. So what is unique about that? So in this intrusion, we have 3 major series. One is a layered series which crystallizes from base upwards, then upper border series crystallizing from the roof downwards, and the marginal border series crystallizing from the margin inwards. And all these series, all these 3 series, they show absolutely the same crystallization sequence, which is shown here: augite, magnetite, olivine plus, minus, apatite, wusmetite, etc. And absolutely the same mineral composition, like shown here in terms of N content of plagicus. You see that the base of the Skaergaard and the top, absolutely the same plagicus composition. So this simple fact and fundamental fact that we have the same crystallization sequences, the same mineral compositions, which starts from the chamber margins, tell us, and we seem to all agree on this, at least I don't know anyone who argue to the contrary, that Skaergaard, in order to form such kind of body, we need first to fill this box with a melt, just melt, nothing else, and then start crystallizing. And so this means the Skaergaard formed from fully liquid magma chamber. I think that is one of the strictest petrological, petrological constraints on the formation of the magma chamber, which I'm aware of. And none of these 550 other intrusions provide such kind of the strict constraints. So this is the beauty of these intrusions. That's why we came to that body, and this just show you one nice cartoon, classical from Neil Irving, showing that this body is really crystallizing from all margin inwards, forming the same rod. Tell you once again that first we need this magma chamber, totally liquid, and then it starts crystallizing. Now we come to the major question, petrological question. And if we need to have this magma chamber, then we can ask ourselves, so at what rate the magma needs to be in place into this chamber to form a big tank of crystal-free magma. When I talk crystal-free, I mean much less than 1%. So what kind of rate of magma emplacement we need to form such body? We have a compilation of the data on the volumetric flow rate. That is from Catherine Annan, one of the paper. And you see that the maximum is somewhere between it's logarithmic scale between -2, -3. So what does it mean? 0.01, 0.001 cubic kilometer per year. Nothing, just peanuts. And this is all about, this is based on isotopes and deformation, isotope geochronology. And you see that with thermal, and that's what we're going to go, we have a little bit higher rate, which is here, 0. So just 1 cubic kilometer per year. So that was the state of art before we start this investigation. This is the setup of the experiments. So we are intruding magma at this level and then going down and starting from the depth of 2 kilometers. And all these, of course, dimensions coming from the Skiergård intrusions, which has area 8 to 11 kilometers. So that is 11 kilometers, as you can see here. Then thickness 4 kilometers of the Skiergård, and it's sitting below the 2 kilometers thick basalt. So that is the dimensions. And then in terms of the temperature, this 100 degrees Celsius there on the top and at the base. So that is the starting parameters for the modeling. Of course, we need to know how melt behaves. There's a lot of data, petrological, experimental data, which was processed by Catherine Annan and involved in this modeling. Okay, now we're coming to the result. I'm going to show you three videos with constraining magma emplacement rate for Skiergård. And now we start first with the 5 centimeters per year. So just like Alan Glasner argues that is how magma chambers form. So what we have on the left, so this is the melt. That is a melt. You see this, we're starting from 2 kilometers, 2 kilometer basalts. So this is 8 kilometers a dimension of the Skiergård. And we are supposed to have magma chamber finally of that thickness. That's because that's 4 kilometers, right? And on the right side, this is a temperature. Oh yeah, I forgot to say that black is totally solid. So 100% of crystals. And this lightish yellow, that is 0% of crystals. That is what we're going to see here, if we're lucky. And then in terms of temperature, you see there's about 100 degrees everywhere. So that is the starting point. Okay, let's look at what is going to happen now. Interesting, look at this, how we are already intruding. This, it appears and disappears, it's getting black. Appears getting black. So what does it mean? It's so slow at 5 kilometers, that's totally solid. It's converted to the solid in a matter of the few years. And we still cannot, everything is solid. Everything is solid. Also the thermal gradient, thermal profile increasing, especially downwards, but we cannot form the chain. But finally, we're starting having something at least with the melt, with the magma to be exactly of that color. So it means 70% of crystals. 70% of crystals, and that is maximum which we can get really here. Now with the color, it's a bit confusing. It looks as if magma chamber is only here. In reality, these rocks of the magma chamber, they're already somewhere here, but they are black, they're totally solid. So as you can see, with this kind of the rate of emplacement, vertical emplacement, I'll show you later the diagrams, the total amount of crystals is 90%. 90% of crystal with such kind of the slow rate, and only in the middle, in this upper part, we have a little bit magma with a 30% of liquid, and that's it. So in other words, Alan Glasner is absolutely correct that if magma chamber, we form this room for magma chamber at such kind of rate, we cannot get magma chambers. No, absolutely impossible. Okay, now because of course that is not what we need for the Skirgaard. So if it's totally filled with crystals, so how we can get this phase layering, cryptic layering? No way. So let's look now at a higher rate. We took it 5 kilometers. Alan says, no, that's absolutely incredible. It's not possible. Okay, let's have 5, so 0.5, so half meters, and start calculations now. And at that rate, so 10 times higher than the previous one, we are already starting seeing something from the very beginning. You see these, basically the contact between the cells as they fill the chamber. And with the amount of the crystals, so because emplacement rate is still slow from my point of view, so it's still a lot of crystals. Still a lot of crystals in the chamber. And finally, I think with this semi-liquid part, semi-solid part, we'll have about 3 kilometers, and 1 kilometer is solid, totally solid. So even with, in other words, even with these, what Alan calls astronomically high, we failed to get the magma chamber, the Skirgaard magma chamber. Totally, it was still full of crystals. I'll show you in the graphic then. On the diagram, there's 35% of crystals. 35% of crystals in the chamber. And of course, if you have so many crystals, so that you cannot get really such kind of the phase and cryptic layering. And there was many other calculations here, and I'm showing you the one, which is nicely show what we really need. It is this one. Now we have 500 meters per year, and you can see we are growing these magma bodies very fast and going up to down to the 6 kilometers. So 4 kilometers with the body with the crystals less than 1%, and that is what we have been actually what we need. And you see, there's so fast there's not any change in the thermal aureole, because the intrusion is so fast that there's no time to conduct the heat into the control. So it's still at the same original temperature, 100 degrees. And we did this, so you see the volumetric rate is not 0 point blah, 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 but that is 44 cubic kilometers per year. And in placement, we've done this job in 8 years. And I would like to stress that that is only the minimum. With that kind of modeling, we can say that we need that kind of the rate in place to produce totally liquid magma body. But we don't know really what was the maximum. Was it 500 or maybe 100, maybe 1,000 or 2,000, 3,000? We don't know. We just know the minimum, which is 500 meters per year. And then with time, of course, thermal aureole develops around the body, and Christian, look at this thermal aureole for the Skirgaard. It's about 200. There's nice data. There's 200 meters, and she nicely reproduced this thermal aureole with this 500 meters per year emplacement rate. To summarize on one diagrams. So what is it? This crystal fraction, and that is vertical emplacement rates, which I have been talking about. And you see these 3 videos: the first video, second video I showed you, and that is the third video. With the first video, just 90% of crystals. This is when we have 5 centimeters per year. With the second video, when we had 0.5 meters, we have, as you can see, the magma chamber with 35% of crystals, certainly too much for us. We cannot produce, and only at about 500 meters per year, this is where we managed to reproduce, so kind of to model the body, which is totally liquid and which can, crystallization can produce a Skirgaard intrusion. And again, stressing that that is just the minimum. for large crystal poor magma chamber. So formation of the large crystal poor magma chambers requires then minimum vertical emplacement rate, hundreds of meters per year, hundreds minimum. If we talk about volumetric, it is tens cubic kilometers per year, and the maximum placement duration no more than a few decades. So it's quite short period. With just in a few years we can fill this magma chamber. In fact, that is only for the minimum. In essence, can be not in decades. I think it may be even months, if not weeks, to fill this magma chamber. But the question is, now that's nice. That's all thermodynamics. That's what we need. But is it physically realistic, to produce a room at such incredibly high rates? And this is where Sandy will come to the stage with his modeling, and he produced these diagrams, which is with his model of piston-like mechanism, where these along x-axis we have a volumetric rate, cubic kilometers per year, and that is vertical rate, emplacement rate, meters per year. And you see that the scale guide sitting somewhere here, the minimum, and apparently it may be even higher there. He showed that with his calculation that if we have a feeder dike about 5-10 meters thick, so it's not a big deal really to, with a known rate of magma flow, to fill this scale gut, which is 300 cubic kilometers through these dikes. And what is most important, she showed that although the rate of the formation of this magma chamber looks incredibly high, but with this kind of piston-like mechanism. So in essence, what we mean, we assume that we have two magma chambers. So this is there was a scale gut and staging chamber, and it is a drop of the flow into this lower chamber, caldera, basically caldera type placement, which squeeze the magma through these folds and filled very quickly the scale gut intrusions, especially assuming that this magma along these folds can lubricate, works as a lubricant. And Sandy says that so even despite it looks very high, in fact, these super eruption rate, and there are several orders, movement along the folds in super eruptions, caldera related, it is several orders of magnitude even higher. So basically, from physical point, it seems that from physical point of view, it's not really a great deal at all. So now we come into this, we can add to this diagram a scale gut, opening a new chapter with a much higher rate of emplacement for the magmatic bodies in scale guts, so somewhere there. And also Catherine likes to stress that perhaps there is some kind of similarity between the caldera, silicic caldera forming magmatic system, because she's working mostly with silicic and scale gut and leaves in terms of high volume of erratic magma, rapid exchange of magma through the piston-like mechanism, and rapidly assemble magma chamber. And to summarize, so scale gut in place in less than a few decades, and maybe even faster. It is exceptional in catastrophic magma flow rates. Magma exchange involves piston-like mechanism, rapid fold slip rates, and there is some similarity with silicic caldera forming systems. The only thing which I'd like to add here to that exceptional and catastrophic magma flow rates. Yes, we put it like this because, these nature science guys, they like really these funny words. But honestly speaking, I don't think that there's something exceptional or catastrophic for scale gut. What I'd like to say is that scale gut is unique not in terms of I think that it's just my feeling that it's not unique in terms of the rate of emplacement. It's just unique in terms of providing us these strict constraints which we can use for modeling. none of other 550 intrusion have these constraints. You know, to have the body which is crystallized from all margin, let's say minerals, we just don't have. Let's go take a bush faults. What can you say? It's a still like body, so you know how it's for. Who knows? There's no constraint here. You can add any time, sequentially, non-sequentially. Nobody can say to tell you that it was totally liquid. No way, no way. So Skeldat is just unique in this in terms of constraints, but I don't think that it's unique in terms of the rate of emplacement. It's quite possible that these 550 intrusions, they form at absolutely the same rate of emplacement, you know, hundreds of meters. They're much faster. I was always kind of suspecting that it was much faster than these guys, especially on geochronology, which I don't believe anymore. They say that they're so slow. No, it kind of doesn't work. So that's kind of the major message from that study. Thank you very much.
Okay, Rais, thank you so much. That was fantastic. Just to let the audience on Zoom know, we may experience load shedding at 2 p.m. So let's take some questions from the Zoom audience first. If there are any questions from the audience on Zoom. Anyone who would like to come through on Zoom to begin the discussion? We have plenty of time for discussion on this very interesting and controversial topic. Lou, you are normally in the Zoom audience, so would you like to start with the question?
Pretend you're in the Zoom.
I think I have a question.
I'm just fishing.
Because I fully have a question. So, Rais, can I?
Yes.
This very high flow rates, obviously it has something to do with the heat source. And we haven't said anything about the heat source. And the heat source is directly related to the tectonic setting, which will also have setting up with power. So now's your opportunity to educate us about this.
Yeah.
Let's just
Okay. The point is that if we have such a, if I understand you correct, the point is that if we have such a high rate of flow, then we need to have where to get this magma at such a high rate, right? How to produce it? It seemed that, in the mantle, melting in the mantle plume is much slower and cannot produce such kind of enormous volume of magma. And that was actually your friend, or I don't know, from UK, the lady who denied the existence of plumes.
Oh,
she got so excited and wrote me a long letter. Said, "Great, that's exactly what I suspect it must be, because all these plumes are nonsense and you cannot get the magma from the plumes. The only way," she sent me a paper, I need to read carefully, when we're talking that there is a big magma staging chamber, and I think that's what Sue and her PhD student showed, that we have remnants of big staging chamber at the water level, where we have a lot of magma, and it is from there we can have such a high rate of the. So it must be prepared. You cannot melt and supply. You need to have a magma chamber, and that's what she, not the friend, was extremely happy that is exactly supporting her point of view.
so if it's not a plume, then
No,
what the hell?
no, I think it's a plume, but still a plume for me, not for her, but for me, for plume. But we have a staging chamber. Staging chamber is not a plume, right? So plume is lost.
Look, a magma chamber has to be produced by heat, and heat has to be produced by some tectonic. Or
Yeah, so you melt the plume, bring magma at the mocha, put at the big, produce a big magma chamber, and then all of a sudden you can have such a high rate of. Otherwise, just by melting, you cannot do this directly from.
So
That's
where does the staging chamber? How deep? It's 50 kilometers.
just exactly where Sue shows it.
All right.
Talk to him.
Thank you, Lou. Scott and then Judith. Judith, you may have to come up to the microphone.
So, sorry, Rais,
Yeah.
that was a great talk. As a geochronologist, I have to ask, but, well, I was going to ask two things. One was, is there any geochronology from Skiergård, maybe from the northern sites at the bottom and the top, that support the, that they're a similar age or whatever? And then my next question is what do you think are the vertical displacements? You know, because some of these things are per year, right? So these would be observable. These are like human timescales, right? So I'm wondering, you know, is there maybe, can you put like a GPS station somewhere and monitor this somewhere, right? If there is like anomalous uplift that you could attribute to, you know, some kind of other way to
But you're not,
other way to test the model.
yeah, I see. Apparently you're not talking about Skergat. It's too late now to put the monitor. It's already there. Yes, maybe quite possible. I think so that we can do this, but we need just to find a right place where we can do this. And Jeffries tell me that these magma do not exist. I don't believe these guys. They don't know, no, because what they do, they monitor this for 50 years only, and the history of the Earth, you know, much longer. So we're just not like, maybe not lucky. We have a time, and then we're maybe looking in a wrong place. That's the first. And another thing about the it's very good question about the isotopes. You know, the James Scott, who produced this funny range for the Bushveld complex, showing that it's 5 million years crystallized. They also did. They all know they have all these samples from Skergat, and they started this job 5 years ago or something. And I'm really asking them, what's your getting? There's no answer, and I'm strongly suspecting that something is going on there. And I will not surprise if they, even for Skergat, they will get difference between the samples 5-10 millions and chaotic, and that's where they just will confirm the idea that something is wrong with the geochronology, or what our understanding of geochronology.
Okay, well, I think you've almost.
We'll do the job with you.
I think we've almost answered one of the questions, but I just wanted to ask you about comparing the flow rate. If you look at the Bushveld and you believe as theirs were, we've got this enormous volume of Bushveld magma in a very short space of time. And then you being Russian will know more than I do about the feeder rate for the Siberian traps. And also with the magma that's come out of the surface in India, have we not got high flow rates there as well?
Yes, that's a very good question. That's also something which I keep kind of back of my mind. So because these the flow rate which we see in the basalt in this flood bath, it's also incredibly high, and I think it's comparable to what we see in Skergat. So that is once again tell me that to produce it just by melting of the plume, melting and getting, I think it's too naive. I think it should be something which, when this magma already ready in a big magma chain, and then we just take it out of there. That's my current feeling. Maybe I'm totally wrong. I've not yet thought about it, but I see that's how I see it at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Rais. I wanted to ask about the creation of space for the material. I mean, the modeling is a little misleading because you're just putting it in there. Is the roof going up? Is it going down? How are you creating the space for this magma chamber? And also the depth of emplacement seems, you know, that's quite critical in terms of the overpressure. When does this blow at top? What does the depth of emplacement tell us about what mechanism? Because I didn't quite follow your piston argument. So if you could go through that a little more.
Okay, so the point that you can make here from the start, so that we cannot. Sandy Cruden, in his review of the mechanism of magma emplacement, he was talking that you can produce magma chamber by inflation, and then you raise the top or you depress the bottom, and all these are quite, even his model, quite slow processes. And so we with such kind of range we cannot really imply even use his model. That's why we finally decided that the only way to kind of reconcile that high flow rate is to look at the Skergat as an uppermost part of the existing chambers, where the base can be dropped down into the staging chamber, that below, that's why how we open it fast. So the chain along the faults is just dropping down, and the magma from there rising into the Skirga. That is the only way, at least for now, we can kind of reconcile these really astronomical high rate of flow which we need to produce Skirga. Whether so caldera type, whether we are right or wrong in this, I don't know. But that is how we see it at the moment.
So this requires crustal scale.
Fault and crustal. That is the only thing which come to our minds at the moment. Maybe there's some better way. I don't know.
Okay, questions in play?
Go ahead.
Hi. Sorry. So I'm just still like trying to.
Just
While you're speaking, I had a headache, so I didn't really quite get a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But what I want to know is, you said that with the Skirga, like you had your staging chamber beneath it, and then it fell into it, and
Yeah.
then the magma basically came up.
Yeah.
So initially, before that fell, was there any sort of like conduit that fed into the Skirga from that magma, from that staging chamber?
Yeah, I see. Well, we don't know. We don't know, of course. Actually, even that estimation of the feeders which were used, 5-10 meters feeders along these faults. Basically, it's also not known. We just know the dikes. At least I'm using the data by Neil Troll, and the whole development. That's all speculation, of course. No idea. That's also all what we are solving with the molding, with thermodynamic part of the molding. But if you wish to have Skirga, you need to have at least 500 meters per year, whether you like it or not. But how exactly it works mechanically, well, Sandy helped us a little bit with this one, but I think it can be done more. Yeah. With the mechanics, real mechanics, how it works. That is still an open question to me.
We have any more questions?
And if we use the same rate of emplacement for the Bushveld complex, so that will produce much faster.